Welcome to Play-by-Play Review. I'm your host, Henry, and there is so much to talk about in this past week and, week plus, 8 days, essentially. The reason why I put this on Wednesday instead of Tuesday is because today, as I'm recording this at least, the official league year, the new league year has begun. It began, I think, at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, March 11th. So I wanted to, give the free agency tampering period the whole 48 plus hours to get through before making this video, this episode, since there were certainly some deals that happened even on today that were, pretty big to go over. And yeah, even still, there's a lot of stuff, even before getting to the actual free agency portion itself, there's still a ton of stuff to go over. So I'm going to try and just run through these real quick. So first up, the Los Angeles Chargers are releasing, at this point, they have released guard Mekhi Becton, former Jets first-round pick in 2020, who won a Super Bowl with Eagles, and signed with the Chargers to hopefully shore up their guard position, and was terrible. He's no longer on the Chargers. I believe still a free agent at this point. Next up, big one was the Los Angeles Rams trading for cornerback Trent McDuffie from the Kansas City Chiefs. And this deal, if I can find it on Spot Track, this included the Rams' 29th overall pick, so their first round pick, not the Falcons' picks. The Rams do still have a first round pick, just not 2 anymore. The Rams also traded a 5th and 6th round pick in 2026 and a 3rd round pick in 2027 for Trent McDuffie. They also gave him a massive extension, I believe a 4-year extension that has made him the highest paid cornerback by average annual salary, eclipsing, I don't remember off the top of my head who was the other one, who might have been Jalen Ramsey, I don't remember exactly, but whoever the most recent cornerback was, it's now Trent McDuffie, and is eclipsed it by just a little bit, but still a really big extension for him. Maybe a bit of an overpay, but McDuffie's really good. And the Chiefs load up for their kind of mini rebuild that they have, their retool essentially, after their very poor season in 2025. Next up, the Vikings are cutting defensive lineman Jonathan Allen, I should say his full name, former Washington Redskins first round pick in 2017, and Javon Hargrave, who I believe was a 49ers pick, might have been first round. Let me double check just because I'm a little curious. He was a 3rd round pick actually he's by the Steelers. Why did I think he was a Niners pick? Never mind. The former pick by the Steelers, and played a little with the Eagles. And yeah, that's about it. So both of them were big signings on the defensive line by the Vikings, I believe that last offseason, and they have both been released since. Hargrave actually has gone somewhere, but I'll get to the proper free agency in a little bit. Next up, the Commanders, they extended Shai Tuttle, Drake Jackson, and Dietrich Wise, all on the defensive line. I believe Tuttle and Wise are more defensive tackles, and then Drake Jackson is a defensive end, but they're all kind of rotational defensive linemen. I think Wise is more of a starter, but as we'll get to in a moment, he might get kind of relegated more to a rotational guy. Next up, the Steelers are cutting Jonnu Smith at tight end. I don't remember. I don't think they're rolling with Arthur Smith anymore at offensive coordinator, and Jonnu Smith was the guy Arthur Smith loved to use. So yeah, there is that. Next up was another pretty big trade. It was the Chicago Bears trading away DJ Moore to the Buffalo Bills for a 2nd round pick, I believe. Let's see, does it say it around here? Come on, Spot Track, help me out. But yeah, big trade for the Bills. They get, even if DJ Moore is not quite what he once was, still an upgrade at the wide receiver position for the Bills. So yeah, they traded away a 2nd round pick for DJ Moore, and also got back a 5th round pick. I think partly the reason why the Bears might not be able to get more is because they were clearing out a lot of cap space since DJ Moore had a big contract. So yeah, a bit of a cap clearing move there, because the Bears do have plenty of weapons on offense, and I think they were okay with parting with DJ Moore. Next up, Cameron Curl, the former Washington, I guess it would have been, it still would have been Redskins at that point, 2020 7th round pick, actually, at safety, who has been playing for the Rams the past couple seasons. Got a hefty extension, well-deserved. I'm really sad that Adam Peters let Cam Curl go because he's great. And yeah, so good for him there. Next up is, where am I in my notes? The Raiders are actually, they were initially planning on releasing Geno Smith when it was reported, but they have actually since traded Geno Smith to the New York Jets for a late round pick swap. So Geno is now returning to the place that drafted him back in, I think, 2012, maybe 2013. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I don't know maybe he competes for the starting role. I don't know who else is playing quarterback for the Jets at this point. Might just be Geno. Who knows? Next up, another former New York quarterback, Tommy DeVito, is getting an extension for the Patriots. He's their third stringer, essentially. Then the Dolphins are actually releasing their kicker, Jason Sanders. I believe he signed somewhere else at this point, but I will get to that in a bit. I feel like I remember seeing that he got signed somewhere. Next up, the Bills releasing 4 players, largely on the defensive side, and then 1 offensive player. Teron Johnson, Dane Jackson, Taylor Rapp, and Curtis Samuel. I believe Teron Johnson was a former All-Pro cornerback in, I think, 2023. Kind of like a nickel cornerback type of guy, but he has since I think he had some injuries and has fallen off production-wise. Dane Jackson, I know Taylor Rapp is definitely getting up there in years. Same with Curtis Samuel, so not super surprising. They're probably clearing out a decent number of cap space as well. Then also for releases, the Lions releasing Taylor Decker, their offensive tackle. So the Lions really going to need to rebuild their offensive line here in 2026 because they have lost a lot on the offensive line. Really mostly everyone big, except for Penei Sewell. Next up, the Houston Texans are releasing Joe Mixon, who did not play at all in 2025 due to some mysterious injury that we still don't really know. I don't know what's going on with Joe Mixon, but he is no longer a Texan. I think he's still a free agent at this point. Don't know if he can even play football. Who knows? It's weird. So next up, more offensive lineman news. The Raiders are cutting guard Alex Kappa. And I think it's also, my guess is probably clearing up a bit of cap space. Don't know how good. Probably wasn't that good given how bad the Raiders were. So I think there's that. Next up, the Bears are actually trading for Garrett Bradbury at center, who was most recently on the New England Patriots. Don't know. Does Spot Track have that trade? It should somewhere. But yeah. Nope, that is a different one. There we go. 5th round pick to the Patriots in 2027 for Garrett Bradbury. So it clears up about $5.7 million in cap space for the Patriots. The Bears are also releasing, at this point, they have released linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, who I believe is signed elsewhere. Again, we'll get to that in just a little bit. Next up was the biggest news of the sort of pre-free agency, and that was Maxx Crosby, the superstar defensive end for the Las Vegas Raiders, who was rehabbing an injury. Got traded to the Baltimore Ravens for a 1st-round pick in 2026 and a 1st-round pick in 2027. So huge trade there for both teams. It freed up a bunch of cap space for the Raiders to, let them go ham in free agency. Also gave them, some nice ammunition for drafting in the next 2 years. I think the Ravens have the 14th overall pick. And, gives the Ravens a pass rusher, which they really, really needed because their pass rush was not great. I would, if I recorded this 2 days ago, I would be, I'd be talking about how great of a move this was for the Ravens. And, I thought it was a good move for the Ravens, even if, the price was steep, but, there was probably one of the best edge rushers in football right now. Going to a team that desperately needed that help and, playing against guys like Joe Burrow and, just the AFC in general, desperately needed. If I was recording this yesterday, I would probably be, I might have been recording it, if I had done it my usual time yesterday. I might have been recording it as the news broke that Maxx Crosby was not getting traded. The Ravens actually backed out of the deal. So big swerve there. I'm skipping ahead chronologically a little bit, but this is to do with Maxx Crosby trade, and I'm going to explain, treat it as it didn't happen, then go, oh, by the way, Maxx Crosby is not getting traded. But yeah. So yeah, the Ravens backed out of their deal. They have cited a failed physical as the reason why. So Maxx Crosby is now back on the Raiders, though the Raiders actually spent a lot in their first day of free agency. So I don't know. This whole thing is very weird. Basically, you never see this level of trade get rescinded like ever in the NFL. So it's huge. So yeah, Maxx Crosby at the moment is still a Las Vegas Raider. Don't know if they're going to try and trade him to someone else. My guess is probably not at this point because, like, I don't know. We'll see. It's very odd. But yeah, the Ravens still hold their first round picks in the next few drafts. And they actually did sign a pretty big pass rusher, but we'll get to that when we get to the Ravens. So in less exciting news, the Bills extended center Connor McGovern. I'm sure Bills fans are probably, I would assume, pretty happy about it because I think it was a pretty nice extension there. I think it was like 3 or 4 years. Also, in terms of extensions, the Eagles extended defensive tackle Jordan Davis to a really big extension, which I think was kind of an overpay because he's solid but not spectacular, and they gave him a lot of money. I don't know. But I'm not Howie Roseman, so I can't say much, but it was felt like the price was a little too much. Next up, the Rams cornerback Darius Williams is actually retiring from football. I don't know how long he played, but I feel like he was in the league for a good bit. All right, I also skipped over Ryan Kelly, the center who was most recently on the Minnesota Vikings, longtime Indianapolis Colt. He also retired. Just completely skipped over that. My bad. And then, all right, next up, also speaking of Colts, because I can go back to them, they're actually trading linebacker Zaire Franklin to the Green Bay Packers for Colby Wooden, a defensive tackle. So player for player swap there. Then next up is Tyler Huntley returning to the Baltimore Ravens on a 2-year deal. After that is the 49ers extending Eddie Pinheiro at kicker for 4 years. So good deal there for Eddie Pinheiro, who's taking over for Jake Moody. So the Niners hopefully have their kicker position figured out for a little while. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers are re-signing Khalil Mack, I think on a 1-year deal, but like a lot of money for the 1 year. But still big get for them because he is produced well in Los Angeles. Next up is the Green Bay Packers extending offensive tackle Sean Ryan. Don't know too much about him, to be honest, but I assume he's all right if he's getting that extension. After that is the Broncos re-signing both linebacker Justin Stranad and tight end Adam Troutman. So I think Stranad is pretty good. I don't know too much as for Troutman, but I know Stranad's a pretty underrated guy. Next up, going back to the Chargers, they actually signed Alex Ingold at fullback because Mike McDaniel's over there now, I'm pretty sure. And he was with the Dolphins, I believe, as well. They also signed Tyler Biadasz, the recently released center by the Commanders. Still don't know why they did that. The Commanders, that is, but good for Biadasz. After that, the Giants re-signed tight end Chris Manhertz. Then Steelers re-signed cornerback Asante Samuel Jr., who they picked up like late in the season, and performed pretty well there. So good for Asante Samuel. After that, the Bears re-signing linebacker DeMarco Jackson. And then another big one, just news-wise, was that the Dolphins were releasing Tua, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, their 5th overall pick in 2020. The guy they gave a big extension to pretty recently, and now they're eating a $99 million dead cap hit, I think, over the next 2 years. So, big changing of the guard kind of in Miami. I believe the Cardinals are also releasing, well, at this point they have released Kyler Murray, and the Falcons also have released Kirk Cousins. So a lot of some big name veteran quarterbacks out there on the market still. After that, the Jags re-signed cornerback Buster Brown on a 3-year deal. Then the Jets are actually trading Minkah Fitzpatrick. The Dolphins are trading Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Jets for a 2026 7th-round pick. Don't know why he only fetches 7th. I know Minkah is not like nearly the guy he once was, but still, it's it was surprising a little bit to see him get traded away. Second time he's got traded away from Miami, actually, which is kind of funny. And then finally, the Packers are trading Rashawn Gary, defensive tackle, defensive end, defensive lineman, essentially, to the Dallas Cowboys for a 2027 4th-round pick. So Gary's actually reuniting with Kenny Clark, and the Cowboys taking on a lot more cap space as well. And so, all right. I think that's it for everything that kind of happened before free agency frenzy started. So what I'm going to do is now basically go through. Let me actually cover the trades first, just so I can get rid of the window. Just like a couple extra trades here and there that have been processed since, and like I've gone through on occasion here. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything from back here. Michael Pittman. He's been traded from the Indianapolis Colts to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a late round pick swap. I almost forgot about that. So also freed up a ton of cap space for the Colts. And you gives the Steelers someone at wide receiver after, they had a lot of struggles at wide receiver outside of DK Metcalf. So even if Pittman's kind of fallen off a little bit from where he was, a couple of years ago, I think it's a solid move for the Steelers. So they get another guy there, though they do take on a pretty decent contract, but either way, it's not bad. But yeah, let's see, trade wise, all right, got that. So speaking of Teron Johnson, actually, because there's a couple of these here and there where it's like these players were released, but then they're actually, since the league year didn't kick in until just now, those releases weren't official. So it's like this happens sometimes where a team will say they are releasing a player, but then another team will trade for them, usually like a late round pick, just so they can make sure that player doesn't hit free agency so they can get them. Teron Johnson was one of them. So the Raiders traded a 2026 6th round pick in exchange for Teron Johnson and a 2026 7th round pick. So late round pick swap. The Raiders also get a nice cornerback there. There was that. Next, Geno Smith one I got. That was also same thing where the Raiders traded away Geno Smith and a 7th round pick for a 2026 6th round pick. So they're basically the opposite of what they did with Teron Johnson. And then, all right, another one for the Dallas Cowboys. Actually, Cowboys made 2 trades pretty recently. Actually, I think these are both today. The Cowboys trading away Osa Odighizuwa, defensive tackle, to the San Francisco 49ers for a 2026 3rd round pick. Niners take on $16.75 million in just cap space in general from the contract. So bit of a cap clearing move for the Cowboys. They also traded away Solomon Thomas, a defensive tackle, to the Tennessee Titans for a 2027 or 2026 round 7 pick swap. So that one, Thomas actually goes back to kind of reuniting with Robert Saleh, who I believe was still coaching the 49ers in 2019. But Solomon Thomas, I believe, was a 2019. I think he was 20, or actually, when was Solomon Thomas drafted? Might have been 2017, actually. Hang on a minute. I might be off by a couple of years. He was 2017, 3rd overall pick, actually, by the 49ers. And played with them through 2020 and had just bounced around teams ever since. Just not a super successful career there, but still in the league, so can only complain so much. But he's definitely not what you want with a 3rd overall pick is what I was trying to say there. And I think that actually does it at the moment for trades. List on SpotTrack is what I have, since that is very good at tracking all this stuff. And I feel like there weren't a ton of huge trades. The Maxx Crosby was going to be the big one, and that didn't happen. There's been a lot of just signings in general, a ton of signings, which is typical for a free agency frenzy. But I feel like this year even more so was there's a lot going on. So this one I'm sticking on SpotTrack, and I'm just gonna run down the list of all the teams alphabetically by their city, because that's usually how it's listed. So I'm starting with the Arizona Cardinals, ending with the Washington Commanders, and basically I'm going to try and hit the highlights of the big contracts and whatnot, and just kind of go over what's going on. Let me actually, if I can find just a flat releases as well, that might be helpful too. Actually, I think the available is what I want. Yeah. So starting with the Arizona Cardinals, the big signing right now for what they have is Isaac Sayumalo, guard over from Pittsburgh on a 3-year, $31 million deal. They also brought over Tyler Algier from the Falcons, running back, on a 2-year, $12 million deal. And then Roy Lopez, defensive lineman from the Detroit Lions, on a 2-year, $10 million deal. And also Kendrick Bourne, wide receiver from the 49ers, 2-year, $10 million. They also brought over Gardner Minshew from the Chiefs on a 1-year deal. And they kept around Jacoby Brissett. So I think they're kind of running with Jacoby and Gardner as their top two. They have also officially released Kyler Murray as of now, so he's a free agent. I think everyone's kind of saying that Minnesota is the top destination for Kyler Murray at the moment, and I can certainly see him going there to try and get rehabbed by Kevin O'Connell and in terms of playing quarterback. He might also go to baseball. Who knows? Sorry. Let's just go right down to the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm not going to go over like where guys from each team signed to, because I'm just going to cover like where the guys signed, like essentially, like just covering the signees instead of where the went to, just because there's a page on Spot Track. That's kind of what I was looking at. So the Falcons, they released Kirk Cousins. They also, I think, didn't re-sign Darnell Mooney. They have a lot of guys essentially that are free agents now, like Daryl Hodge, Leonard Floyd, a lot of some big names here. David Onyemata as well. There's a lot of free agents there. In terms of guys they brought over, not much actually. I think the Falcons were dealing with a lot of cap issues. They did sign Tua Tagovailoa, which is not on here for some reason. I don't really know why, but yeah, they did bring over Tua. And other than that, at least listed on here, they have Austin Hooper, tight end. They brought over from Patriots, and their biggest contract at the moment is actually a punter, Jake Bailey from the Dolphins, on a 3-year, $9 million deal. But yeah, the Falcons have not like on Spot Track for some reason. I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure they brought over. Yeah, they brought over Olamide Zaccheaus. Oh, it's just not listed the money wise. That's why. But they brought over Olamide Zaccheaus, Christian Harris, Azeez Ojulari as well, Nick Folk for kicker. So yeah, there are like some moves here and there, but not super spectacular. I have no idea why Tua is not listed on here, because I know they signed him, or at least it was reported that they signed him, but it's, I don't know, that beats me. Maybe it was just because it was like processed before, but even then, like I got nothing. But yeah, Tua should. I mean, let me actually double check here real quick, make sure I'm not going crazy. But I am like 99% sure the Falcons were, in line to sign him. So I guess maybe the deal has not processed yet, but I could have sworn they'd sign him, but maybe not. I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, most likely Tua Tagovailoa is going to be on Atlanta. Otherwise, their offseason has not been super eventful so far. So next up, we'll go to the Baltimore Ravens. And this is one where actually we'll highlight who they lost, because they lost a lot. In terms of guys they signed, the big one was that because this was right after the Maxx Crosby deal fell through. Or actually, this was this morning on Wednesday. So it was like not even like half day after the Ravens signed Trey Hendrickson over from the Bengals on a 4-year, $112 million deal. Huge deal for one of the best edge rushers of the past couple of years, though a guy who's dealing with age and also injury. So we'll see there. They also, the other big contract that they had was the Ravens were bringing over guard John Simpson from the New York Jets on a 3-year, $30 million deal. But right now it is really just that Trey Hendrickson. That's the one, the Trey Hendrickson deal. Kyle Van Noy actually and DeAndre Hopkins are currently still unsigned, though they are most recently Ravens. The guys that they lost a ton. So Tyler Linderbaum, Isaiah Likely, Draymond Jones, Alohi Gilman, Charlie Kolar, Jordan Stout, Patrick Ricard, Jake Hummel, and Ardarius Washington. All of them left, so not a good offseason so far for the Baltimore Ravens. They've lost a lot of talent. They did, I know, recently restructure Lamar's contract, so they might get a bit more active now, but it's not a great start for the Ravens, to be precise. So the Buffalo Bills, also not super active, just because they don't have the best cap situation as well. They haven't re-signed like Joey Bosa or even Matt Milano or like a lot of their longtime defensive guys. So like just looking at the available free agents that have were recently on Buffalo. So Joey Bosa, Daquan Jones, Larry Ogunjobi, Matt Milano, AJ Epinesa, Taylor Rapp, Tre'Davious White, Damar Hamlin, Jordan Phillips. There's a lot. Even Jordan Poyer, Shaq Thompson, Dane Jackson. There's a lot that the Bills are like definitely a big turnover for the Bills on defense. In terms of signings, they brought over, well, they actually re-signed Mitch Wishnowsky at punter, which is cool. The big signing, which just happened today, was Bradley Chubb, bringing him over from the Dolphins, former Broncos first-round pick, on a 3-year, $43.5 million deal. Chubb, he's good when he's on the field, although he just hasn't been on the field a bunch. Like, he's dealt with a lot of injuries, and his play certainly declined a lot recently. Like, the Dolphins signed him to a huge contract, and he just did not produce there whatsoever. The Bills also signed another 3-year deal to D. Alford, cornerback from the Falcons, on a 3-year, $15.75, or I guess $15.75 million deal. I guess $15.75 million deal. I think that makes more sense. They also signed Kyle Allen, backup quarterback, over from the Detroit Lions. And right now, that is all that SpotTrack has to offer for signings for the Bills. And yeah, I don't remember the Bills being too active either. So yeah, I think that is it. My guess is they're going to try and build the draft more so than free agency. And I think it's just with Josh Allen's contract and James Cook's contract, they don't have too much. I think they re-signed Dawson Knox, though, pretty recently. That's not listed, but I feel like I remember that being a thing. So yeah, we'll see how that goes there for the Bills. For the Carolina Panthers, they're actually one of the big spenders, largely on one guy. So the big prize that they got was Jalen Phillips, former Dolphins first-round pick, actually, in, I want to say 2019. Actually, when was Jalen Phillips drafted? Because I'm curious. But he has, I think, a torn Achilles and torn ACL in his career. And he was most recently on the Eagles. The Eagles actually traded for him at the trade deadline. He was a 2021 first-round pick, 18th overall. The Eagles traded for him, and he had a really good first game with them, and then after that, it was just kind of okay. But he's still, the upside is what enticed Carolina. They gave him a 4-year, $120 million contract, the biggest one given out so far this offseason. I don't mind Jalen Phillips as a player. I think he's solid. This is a lot of money for a guy who has not seen the field too much. And even then, when he's on the field, he's good, but maybe not that good. I think the Panthers are definitely looking at the upside factor and also just trying to, maybe overpaying a little bit for a guy that they at a position they really needed because their pass rush was not good at all. I actually covered that in an episode a couple weeks ago on the NFC South recap. I'm pretty sure it's Derek Brown, their nose tackle, who was their leading sacker. So yeah, they needed a guy like Jalen Phillips, but this is just a lot of money, to say the least. Their other big contract that they signed was for Devin Lloyd, the first-round pick at linebacker from the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think might have also been a first-round pick in 2021. Let me double-check that as well, because I'm trying to remember. I remember him being a first-round pick. No, he's 2022. So it was, because the Jags picked Trevor Lawrence and ETN in 2021 in the first round. So yeah, so stacking a couple of former first-rounders on the defensive side of the ball for the Panthers. They gave Lloyd a 3-year, $45 million contract. This one I like. I was kind of hoping the Commanders got Devin Lloyd, but in the end they didn't. So I like that one for the Panthers. The next biggest contract actually is to Kenny Pickett on a 1-year deal, $7.5 million or $7.5 million. So bringing him in as a backup quarterback. Hopefully Kenny doesn't really see the field, as a starter, because that would mean something happened to Bryce Young, and hopefully that doesn't happen. So yeah. Other than that, they brought over Luke Fortner from the Saints at center on a 1-year deal, and also Stone Forsythe at right tackle from the Raiders. And they also just recently signed John Mechie at wide receiver over from the Jets, and they actually re-signed David Moore, and I think they tendered Jalen Coker as well, so he's staying around. They actually brought back Isaiah Simmons at linebacker. So Panthers are definitely making some moves. It's just the Jalen Phillips contract it's a lot, man. It's a lot. All right, next up is the Chicago Bears. Their biggest contract was to safety Kobe Bryant, kind of replacing Kevin Byard, who is departing. Kobe Bryant bringing him over from the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks on a 3-year, $40 million deal. So I like this move for the Bears because Bryant was pretty good. And yeah, I could have seen them maybe re-signing Byard because he had 7 interceptions, but he's getting up there in age, so I think they're okay getting a bit younger. Next biggest contract was Neville Gallimore, defensive lineman for the Colts, on a 2-year, $10 million deal. Bears this time around weren't super active in free agency. They actually brought back Case Keenum and Braxton Jones. Braxton Jones actually re-signed, or I guess more of an extension on a 1-year deal on the offensive line. They brought over Cam Lewis over from the Bills on a 2-year deal at cornerback, and also brought over Khalif Raymond, wide receiver, on a 1-year deal from the Detroit Lions. So yeah, Bears not super active this time around, though the trade that they had for Garrett Bradbury, not too bad as well, given that Drew Dahlman shockingly retired. So they definitely needed to scramble to try and fill that hole at center. I almost just spilled my water. That would have been really bad, but luckily I didn't. that would have been really bad. Right. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals. And, given their lack of cap space, they did not have much to work with. Though they did sign, I actually like the signing a good bit, is bringing over Boye Mafe from the Seattle Seahawks on a 3-year, $60 million deal. So it is a good bit of money, but, again, Seattle Super Bowl champions. Mafe, pretty good edge rusher, and it was a position that the Bengals desperately needed, even if I think Myles Murphy started to come on a little bit towards the end of 2025. But, you can only hope so much for your Myles Murphy and Shamar Stewart to develop, but given that neither of them have shown too much so far in terms of production, getting a guy with, solid numbers so far in his career. Let me see if I can actually pull up his stats here. How much? So he only had 3 sacks in 2020. Oh, no, I'm looking at 2022. Never mind. I actually only had 2 sacks in 2025. That's actually worse. But I feel like he had a pretty solid season overall. He had 9 sacks 2023, 6 sacks 2024. He only started 4 games for Seattle, so I think that's why. But starting, as a starter, he had starting all 16 games in 2023 for the Seahawks, 9 sacks, 52 tackles, and 52 total tackles, just here on Spot Track. So I think he's just a solid piece for the Bengals there. I don't think he's gonna replace the production Trey Hendrickson had, but I think get him on a cheaper deal than Trey Hendrickson. I think it's solid, and I just hope to God really that Myles Murphy or Shamar Stewart can develop and get some kind of production there on the defensive line. The only other signing listed right now on Spot Track is safety Brian Cook over from the Kansas City Chiefs on a 3-year, $40 million deal, which they also definitely needed help in the safety spot. So, the Bengals still definitely have plenty of holes to fill, just given the fact that they, have a lot of departures, not a lot of acquisitions. But I like the positions they're addressing so far in free agency, even if it's only just 2 spots. After that, we go from one Ohio team to the other in the why did I say Chicago? The Cleveland Browns. Their big signing was Zion Johnson at guard, bringing him over from the Chargers. Don't know if bringing in an interior lineman from the Chargers is the best move, but the Browns lost their entire starting offensive line to free agency, or at least all their starting offensive line are free agents. So they needed to really find something essentially to fix. And speaking of that, their other big signing was Eldon Jenkins, the center from Green Bay, who actually got released quite a little surprisingly. They brought him in on a 2-year, $24 million deal. Then their other signings were they actually re-signed Tevin Jenkins at guard. And then they brought over Quincy Williams, not Quinnen Williams, Quincy Williams over from the Jets at linebacker on a 2-year, $17 million deal. And then they also got Jack Stoll at tight end on the Saints, or from the Saints on a 1-year, $1.3 million deal. So a little bit of depth to the tight end position, given that David Njoku is now tight end, and Harold Fannin has certainly cemented himself as the tight end one for the Browns. After that, we get to the Cowboys. Cowboys not super active in terms of signings. Even if they have a decent number of cap space, it's Jerry Jones, and he's he's not exactly the most active guy in free agency over the past couple of years. The infamous Skip Bayless tweet a couple of years ago, all in comma, my ass. Still the funniest tweet I've seen in a good bit from Skip Bayless, and I'm not a fan of his, but that was hilarious. But yeah, the all-in push this year for the Cowboys was bringing over Jalen Thompson at safety from the Arizona Cardinals on a 3-year, $33 million deal. That was their big one. They brought over PJ Locke at safety as well from the Broncos on a 1-year, $5 million deal. Then a couple other smaller ones were they actually re-signed Sam Williams at defensive end and also brought over Sam Howell from the Eagles. So former Commanders 2023 fifth-round pick at quarterback 2022 pick at quarterback, not 2023. Yeah, it was 2022 because 2023. Yeah, because he was a sophomore year in 2023. Hang on, let me double check. Pretty sure this is it was 2022. My years are off by one, but yeah, Sam Howell is now 3/4 of the way done and completing the NFC East gauntlet because he was most recently on the Eagles. But yeah, so backup quarterback there, but I was always a fan of Sam Howell, even if he was didn't have the best season for the Commanders, but helped us get Jane Daniels, so I won't say no to that. For the Broncos, they also were not that active in free agency, and I'm not really sure why. I know they don't have, or I actually don't know how much cap space they have, period. Let me see if I can find, let me actually try and go look at the cap space real quick. Team cap. The Broncos are sitting at 19th, so they still have $16 million in cap at the moment. The Cowboys, meanwhile, are actually under the cap still, so yeah, not surprising that they are not doing much. Same with the Browns, same with the Bills, same with Browns, Bills, Cowboys are still currently under the cap. Same with the Bucks as well. The Bengals only have plus $4.4 million, so yeah, they're not doing much. The Broncos, I don't know why they're not doing more, to be honest. They re-signed. They've actually only re-signed people. They have not signed anyone from outside the organization at the moment. But they re-signed J.K. Dobbins on a 2-year deal, which is good because he had a good season when he was healthy. They also re-signed Alex Singleton on a 2-year deal, and they also brought back fullback Adam Prentice. Just other than that, they've done nothing. They are apparently maybe cutting Dre Greenlaw. It was reported, but then it wasn't reported, so I don't know really what's going on there. We'll see with that, but yeah. Broncos are very quiet in free agency. Don't really know why. But yeah. For the Lions up next, they're actually 10th. So they have $34 million in cap at the moment. They're just not super active in free agency. They obviously traded away David Montgomery. They actually replaced him with Isaiah Pacheco. They, I believe, signed him on a 2-year deal, bringing him over from the Chiefs. I like this signing a lot, actually, because I don't think they're definitely not asking Pacheco to be the number one back. I don't even think they're really going to have him be that Montgomery role of maybe a 60-40 or 65-35 role. I think Pacheco's just going to be a backup and just provide an alternative to Jahmyr Gibbs, because Jahmyr Gibbs has cemented himself as one of the best running backs in the league right now. So there's no real need to have him split carries with anyone. So I still like this because I think Pacheco is you're basically replacing David Montgomery with just a younger version. I think their running style is different, but trading away a guy who's getting up there in age and probably is going to have a dip in production, especially running back, and bringing in another running back who's much younger and has certainly shown flashes of having some real potential here and there. Pacheco's rookie season is really good. It's just he's been injured a lot recently, so keep him healthy. He can be a really solid running back too. But yeah, their big signing was actually center Cade Myers, bringing him over from the Panthers on a 3-year, $25 million deal. They also re-signed cornerback Rock Yassin on a 1-year deal. And other than that, not too much. They actually brought back Teddy Bridgewater, bringing him in over from the Buccaneers most recently. And other than that, just not too much. They re-signed Malcolm Rodriguez as well. But yeah, Lions not as not as active as I would expect. They lost Taylor Decker, Graham Glasnow to free agency, or I guess cutting him both, I guess. And then also, Frank Ragnow retiring last year. So their offensive line, I mean, obviously the Cade Meyer signing certainly helps, but there's a lot more work to do for the Lions on the offensive line. So my guess is they will probably address that somewhere in the draft. Then moving on to the Packers, so one NFC North team to the other. Their big signing was actually Javon Hargrave, who was released by the Vikings. That's who they are, on a 2-year, $23 million deal to beef up the defensive line, which they've traded away Kenny Clark right before the season started for Micah Parsons and also the picks and whatnot. And then also they just traded away Rashawn Gary as well. So get someone to beef up the defensive line. Their other multi-year contract was to Benjamin St-Juste, who was most recently on the Chargers, signed him to a 2-year, $10 million deal. Former third-round pick in 2021, I believe, by the Washington, I guess then it would have been football team. And if I remember correctly, it was actually one of the picks, I think it was the main pick, the football team got in trading away none other than Trent Williams. So I'm certainly not, that was great. Great move, Ron. Really showed him there. Because St-Juste was not good in Washington. So just going to say that right now. The other signings were re-signing both Darian Kennard at right tackle and Brenton Cox Jr. at defensive end on 1-year deals. So the Packers also not super active in free agency. They still have $26 million currently in cap space. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think they can do much more in terms of big deals, but they might probably do something else, I would have to assume. Like, obviously, there's a lot of time before the season starts, so don't expect them to be entirely inactive here, but not a super big start to free agency for the Packers. Next up is the Texans. Their big signing was actually Reed Blankenship, the safety from Philadelphia, on a 3-year, $24.75 million deal. They also brought over Braden Smith from the Colts on a 2-year, $20 million deal at offensive line. So, get help there on the offensive line is really good for the Texans. They brought over defensive lineman Logan Hall from the Buccaneers on a 2-year, $13.75 million deal. And then also tight end Foster Moreau from the Saints on a 2-year, $6.3 million deal. Jake Hummel, linebacker from the Ravens, on a 2-year, $4.75 million deal. And then also edge rusher Dominique Robinson from the Bears on a 1-year, $4 million deal. So bit of a mixed bag in terms of positions, like not in terms of quality, but like a little bit of everything for the Texans. They did lose a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball to free agency, just guys leaving. So like Jimmy Ward, Danico Autry, Mario Edwards, Derek Barnett, Foley, Fatukasi, I think is how you pronounce it. They also lost Nick Chubb and Dario Ogunbowale, the place-kicking running back. But yeah, there should be interesting to see how the Texans, and that's just guys that are like haven't signed anywhere else. There's also, they lost Tim Settle and Christian Harris to other teams, and I'll get to Tim Settle later. But yeah, so it should be interesting to see what the Texans do on the defensive side of the ball as we move forward, since the Texans defense was really good. Next up is the Colts. Colts made one of the biggest splashes and probably the earliest big splash in free agency in re-signing Alec Pierce. Now, Pierce was, I think, the top wide receiver on the market. Had a really nice kind of breakout season in 2025 and was commanding a lot of money. And in the end, he actually returned to Indianapolis on a 4-year, $114 million contract. So he's getting $28.5 million per year. A lot of money. 84 million guaranteed, by the way. So I think his first 3 years should be roughly guaranteed. I think around is what it is. I think that's usually how it goes. Yeah, the wide receiver market's pretty crazy. Obviously, the cap is like 300 million now, so there's a lot of money to be thrown around. But still, this is a lot of money for a guy who has like overall solid, but I don't know if he's worth quite this much. But wide receivers, kind of have to be like this sometimes. But yeah, the Colts got to keep their guy. They also actually re-signed, or I guess extended Daniel Jones, even if he's going to be coming off the Achilles injury. Still good for the Colts there. They signed Arden Key over from the Titans on a 2-year, $20 million deal. And then Michael Clemens over from the Jets, both of them edge rushers. Clemens on a 3-year, $17 million deal. Then they also brought in Derek Nandi from the Chiefs at defensive line. So, yeah, Colts, I don't mind their moves, even if it's not a lot so far, and they did lose a decent bit. But I don't know. I just worry how healthy Daniel Jones is going to be, and if that's really going to affect them. And obviously, they don't have their first-round pick this year, and I think also next year, I think they traded away 2 first-round picks to the Jets. So it should be interesting. Colts are in, I wouldn't say the best situation in the world, but not the worst either. Next up is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Also kind of silent in free agency. They don't have a lot. They're only above the cap by about $5 million. So, they currently, this is after signings, but not too much. The only 2 listed right now on Spotrac are re-signing of Dennis Gardeck at edge rusher on a 2-year, $6.5 million deal. And then they also brought over Chris Rodriguez from the Commanders at running back on a 2-year, $10 million deal. So I'm sad to see Rodriguez go. And I don't know if he's going to be RB1 there. So just going to spoil ahead real quick. They did lose Travis Etienne to free agency. He's on a different team now. Going to get to them in just a little bit. But yeah, between Rodriguez and I guess Bashal Tootin, I think is their top 2 running backs now. Don't know if they go with one in the draft, but I think Tootin was a rookie. So we'll see how it goes there. But yeah, for a team that was pretty good at running the ball last year, I like Rodriguez, and I think he could be primed for a breakout season. We'll see. I don't think he's going to be top 15, but I think he's going to be solid. I like C-Rod, so yeah. But yeah, other than that, not much for the Jags in terms of free agency. Next up is the Chiefs. I think we're about halfway there, and I'll pick things up just a little bit here. So the Chiefs, they had a couple of really big signings. The big one that was right at the start of free agency was Kenneth Walker III, the Super Bowl MVP running back for the Seattle Seahawks, signed with the Chiefs. Really good signing for them. 3 years, $43 million per year, or not per year, $14 million per year basically. 3 years, $43 million. Even if Walker, has had some injury issues here and there, I think, just giving him the rock as the full-time RB1 compared to what he was in Seattle and how they just would never use him on some games, it was really weird. I really like this for the Chiefs. And unfortunately for the rest of the league, they're gonna this is a good signing. They also brought over Alohi Gilman from the Ravens at safety on a 3-year, $24.7 million deal. And then at defensive line, they brought over, I'm going to try and pronounce this, Curious Tonga, I think is how it is. Defensive lineman, Patriots, 3-year, $21 million deal. And then another big news, they re-signed Travis Kelce to a 1-year, $12 million deal. So he is actually not done for his career. He's doing at least 1 more year. My guess is this is probably his last, but who knows? I think part of the reason why he wants to keep going is because the Chiefs season just didn't end how they wanted it to. He probably wants to go out, at least playing in the playoffs, if not the Super Bowl. Definitely not, going 6-11, I think is how they finished. But yeah, Travis Kelce running it back for, I think, year 14 at this point. They also re-signed Tyquan Thornton at 2 years, $11 million. So actually not a bad free agency for the Chiefs whatsoever. And, cutting Jawan Taylor saved them a bunch of money. So they had the cash to throw around a little bit. Where are they sitting actually? Sitting at 17th, so they still have 19.5 million in cap at the moment. But my guess is, I think for a lot of the big names, they're signed to this point. But yeah, you could still see some moves here and there. Next up is the Raiders, and the Raiders, they had all the money to spend, and spend it they did. The biggest one was that they signed Tyler Linderbaum from the Ravens on a 3-year, $81 million deal. So he biggest deal ever given to a center by a large margin. He's getting $27 million per year. The next closest center is getting $18 million per year. So it's a ton of money for Tyler Linderbaum. I don't mind the signing. I think it is a little expensive, but I don't mind actually bringing him in at all. I think it's getting him there is really good. The next big contract they gave was to Kwity Paye from the Colts, 3 years, $48 million deal. I definitely think this is a bit much for Kwity Paye, who is former first-round pick by the Colts, but just has not produced all that much. So I don't know what the plan was here. I mean, obviously they want the edge rusher, but it's a lot of money for Kwity Paye, essentially. But it could, it could certainly work. It's just a lot. It's there's just a couple deals here and there that is ooh, that's a lot of money. But the Raiders had the money to spend, and they kept spending because they actually double dipped on linebackers within seconds of each other, getting reported at least. And that is Quay Walker from the Packers and Nakobe Dean from the Eagles. I think both of them were first round picks, if I remember correctly. Quay Walker got a 3-year $40.5 million deal, and then Nakobe Dean got a 3-year $36 million deal. So instant upgrades to the linebacker spot. Nakobe Dean's dealt with a lot of injuries in his career, but when he's on the field, he's good. And Quay Walker, also pretty good when he's on the field. So really revamped defense for the Raiders. They also brought over Jalen Naylor from the Vikings, who is a solid wide receiver 3 there, but he's behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So he gets a chance to shine more as at this point he might actually be a wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, more so in Las Vegas. He has a 3-year, $35 million deal. They also re-signed cornerback Eric Stokes, former Packers first-round pick at cornerback, on a 3-year, $30 million deal. So, and they also brought back Malcolm Kuntz at edge on 1-year, $11 million deal. So, a lot of money getting thrown around by the Raiders, and they still have $45 million in cap left to go. And I think that's with Maxx Crosby coming back. So, there's still that contract to deal with as well. But yeah, a lot of money, a lot of new faces on the defense for the Raiders. Because I'm honestly thinking they're going to go Mendoza at number 1. I'd be shocked if they don't. I'm not going to say the Raiders are going to make the playoffs, but I love the position compared to what they were last year. I think they are in a significantly better spot than they were last year. And I think the coaching staff already is much better. So yeah, just don't be shocked if the Raiders aren't bad in 2026. Essentially, I think that's kind of what I was trying to get around to. So moving on to another AFC West team, the Chargers. The big one, which I actually already mentioned, was the Tyler Biadasz signing on a 3-year, $30 million deal. They also brought over Charlie Kolar from the Ravens, tight end, on a 3-year, $24 million deal. So he's a pretty underrated guy there in Baltimore. I think he's actually tight end 3 behind Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. But going hardball to hardball, and getting a chance to sign really as the tight end 1, I think, should be interesting there. They brought over Cole Strange, former current guard, former first-round pick by the Patriots. He was most recently on Miami on a 2-year, $13 million deal. They re-signed Trey Pipkins and also Delshon Phillips. Pipkins, right tackle, Delshon Phillips, edge rusher, both on 2-year deals. They also brought over Alec Ingold from the Dolphins on a 2-year deal. I think I actually mentioned that already, now that I think about it. But yeah, so they brought over Ingold, and they also re-signed Dean Leonard. So not too bad of a off season for the Chargers, though. I wouldn't have mind seeing them try and get a wide receiver. I get that they have Quentin Johnston and Lad McConkey, but I wouldn't have mind seeing another wide receiver targeted by the Chargers. So the Rams, they obviously don't have a lot of room. Actually, never mind. They're actually 14th at the moment, but very quiet on free agency. They only have one signing at the moment, and that is Jalen Watson, cornerback from the Chiefs, on a 3-year, $51 million deal. So pretty big there. But other than that, like, it was really the Trent McDuffie trade was the big one. So really trying to beef up that secondary. Other than that there's nothing really. The Rams just have not done much. All right, after that is the Dolphins. And they're moving on from Tua, so there's a big change here. And to replace Tua, they actually brought over Malik Willis from the Packers on a 3-year, $67.5 million deal. I don't mind this one too much. I don't know if Malik Willis is going to be the guy, but he certainly showed some flashes while in Green Bay. But it's just the question of, can he do it consistently? And I don't know if Miami's the best environment, just with the team around him. But having Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle is not bad at all. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, he was working with Jeff Hafley, and then the GM, who I don't remember the name of, but also had worked for the Packers. So Dolphins, becoming Packers South a little bit here and there. Not fully, but a little bit. Dolphins also re-signed Greg Dulcich at tight end. They brought over Zane Gonzalez at kicker from the Falcons. And they also brought over Josh Uche from the Eagles, which is nice. Other guys were Darrell Baker from the Titans, Lonnie Johnson from the Raiders, Zane Anderson from the Packers, and Alex Austin from the Patriots. So a couple cornerbacks, a couple safeties, edge rusher, and Josh Uche. And then, kicker, tight end, quarterback. So, bit of mix on defense and offense. Surprised they didn't go for anyone on the offensive line, but maybe they go for something like that in the draft. Who knows? After that, we get to the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings. Their 3 signings on Spot Track are James Pierre at cornerback from the Steelers on a 2-year, $8.5 million deal. It's pretty good value, I think, as well. And then a couple re-signings in Tavir Thomas at safety on a 2-year deal, and Andrew DePola at long snapper on a 1-year deal. So the Vikings, they're releasing some of the big guys in John Allen and Javon Hargrave. Still 22nd, so they only have about $14 million in available cap at the moment. Good chance they probably go for Kyler Murray at quarterback, so don't be too surprised if you see that there. Next up is the Patriots. Make some pretty good moves. I actually like the Patriots free agency so far. So the big one was Romeo Doubs, bringing him over from the Packers on a 4-year, $68 million deal to shore up the wide receiver position. Don't know if they're going to try and slot him in as wide receiver 1. I think that's probably going to be the plan at the moment, unless, Kayshon Boutte develops a lot. I don't know if Damari Douglas is still on the team or if he is signed elsewhere. I think he's still on the team, but I don't think him or even Boutte are going to be the wide receiver 1. My guess is Dobbs is going to slot in there. We'll see how he performs, but I like the signing either way. Another big signing was Elijah Vera Tucker, bringing him in over the Jets, former first-round pick in 2021, who's shown a lot of talent. He's just cannot stay healthy for some reason. So maybe just change of scenery will help that out. But, the upside there with AVT is immaculate. So, might have given a lot. For some reason, I thought they had given him a 1-year deal. It was actually a 3-year deal, $42 million. So, bit of a big, I think it's a decent risk there with AVT, but, also the upside there is great. They brought over Draymond Jones, edge rusher from the Ravens, on a 3-year, $36.5 million deal. And then fullback Reggie Gilliam over from the Bills on a 3-year, $10 million deal. Getting more power in that running game and just in that blocking space for the Patriots, which I like. I want to see a bit of a comeback of the fullback. I want to see more of them in the league because I think that's a cool position. And, I think too many teams are getting away from, hard-nosed, smash-mouth style of football. And I think there's certainly success to be had there with the right group. Also, another big signing was Kevin Byard, bringing him over from the Bears on a one-year deal. Byard was actually, I think, a first-team All-Pro at safety, had 7 interceptions. Former, I think, Titans first-round pick, if I remember correctly. And yeah, so it's not bad there. They also brought over KJ Britt and Julian Hill at linebacker and tight end from the Broncos, or not the Broncos, the Dolphins. And then Mike Brown at safety over from the Titans. So yeah, I like the Dobbs signing. I like the ABT signing. Draymond Jones and Reggie Lim also pretty nice. So not too terrible of an offseason whatsoever for the Patriots, I think. After that, we get to the Saints. They made a couple pretty big deals. First one was David Edwards at offensive line on a 4-year, $61 million deal. So shore up that offensive line for Tyler Shuck. And then they've also, given him a good weapon in Travis Etienne, the former Jags first-round pick out of Clemson in 2021. Bring him in on a 4-year, $52 million deal. Most likely means that Alvin Kamara is gone. My guess is they're going to cut him at some point because I think he's got a decent cap hit. And, he's just kind of, the unfortunate situation for any player is, or like mostly every player, is age getting to them and they're just, the production goes down. So, and it was pretty obvious that the Saints needed to get younger at the running back position, and they get the guy who just had the best season of his career in ETN, coming off of that 2025 season. So pretty nice. The Saints also brought over linebacker Caden Ellis from the Falcons on a 3-year, $33 million deal. They brought over punter Ryan Wright from the Vikings on a 4-year deal. Re-signed John Ridgway at defensive line on a 2-year deal, former Commanders pick, actually. And then also signed over Noah Fant from the Bengals, former Broncos first-round pick, who was included in that Russell Wilson trade with the Seahawks back in the day. And yeah, that does it for the Saints. So actually, I don't mind the Saints offseason too much. They're finally kind of emerging from the cap hell that they'd been in for so long. And you can make some bigger moves. They're still sitting 20th at around $15.5 million in cap space. So I could see them making another move here or there, but there's still, I think, a bit of ways to go for the Saints, but I like where they're at the moment. I don't mind where they're at whatsoever. After that comes the New York Giants, and they were very active. A lot of which were signing over a bunch of Ravens players because, it's John Harbaugh is the coach. So, he's bringing in a lot of the guys he liked. That starts out with Isaiah Likely, bringing him in over at tight end on a 3-year, $40 million deal, which is pretty nice because the Giants tight end room was not the best, to say the least, and Likely now firmly slotting into tight end 1 because he doesn't have Mark Andrews taking the spot there. I don't mind it too much. They re-signed Jermaine Elumunor. I don't know how you pronounce his last name exactly, but at tackle on a 3-year, $39 million deal. Then they brought over Tremaine Edmonds over from the Bears on a 3-year, $36 million deal to short up the linebacker spot since they released Bobby Okereke, which I might have mentioned last week. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it last week. But yeah, basically replacing Okereke with Edmonds, which I think is not bad. They signed punter Jordan Stout over from the Ravens on a 3-year deal. Then signed Greg Newsome at cornerback on a 1-year deal over from the Jaguars, who had been traded to the Jags from the Browns that season back in 2025. Not a great cornerback from what I've seen. Former first-round pick, I think, in 2021. But definitely kind of a 1-year prove-it deal. The Giants also brought over Patrick Ricard at fullback, so I know my Ravens friends are not happy about that because Ricard was an underrated dynamo for their offense. And if Scatterboo can come back healthy, him running behind Ricard is a pretty nasty duo right there. They also re-signed Micah McFadden and Isaiah Hodgins, linebacker and wide receiver, on 1-year deals. Then brought over Ardarius Washington at safety from the Ravens. They actually just re-signed Evan Neal for some reason at guard, who was former first-round pick, I think the 7th overall pick back in 2023, I think. Might have been 2022 or 2023, one of the two. and who was terrible with them at tackle. And so that not quite sure why they re-signed him, but all right. And then they also signed Jason Sanders at kicker over from the Dolphins. So my guess is that means Graham Gano is gone. I'm assuming he is. His contract might have just ran out, but yeah. So I like that move at kicker for the Giants. I actually don't mind the offseason overall for the Giants. I'm no fan of the Giants, but yeah, it's like outside of the Evan Neal signing, which is I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're going to try and have him start, but I don't know. But yeah, I don't mind the offseason, but I would have liked to seen them go for a bigger name wide receiver outside of just re-signing Isaiah Hodgins, because they have Malik Neighbors obviously, but he's coming off an ACL tear. They lost Wan'Dale Robinson to free agency, so not sure. I mean, they might go Carnell Tate at 5th overall. I think that's a decent scenario for the Giants, but we'll see. After that, we go over to the other New York team in the Jets, who haven't done quite as much. So I guess they're currently patching their quarterback situation with Geno Smith, since they did not sign a quarterback. Their big contract was to Joseph Osai at edge from the Bengals on a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. They also are bringing home Demario Davis, former pick by the Jets way back in the day, who actually I don't remember how long he played on the Jets, but he's more known for his time as a Saint. He was a longtime Saint, but he was originally a New York Jet. So he was a 3rd-round pick by the Jets in 2012, played with them 2012 to 2015, was with the Browns in 2016, then Jets again in 2017, and then 2018 through 2025, he was with the Saints. Definitely had a lot more success with the Saints than with the Jets or the Browns. Was a 4-time second-team All-Pro, all with the Saints, and a first-team All-Pro in 2019 as well with Saints. So, yeah, definitely had more of a successful career in New Orleans than in New York. But yeah, getting a veteran, bringing him home, I always like that. So 2 years, $22 million there. Their other deals were Kingsley and Enagbare at edge from the Chiefs, or not the Chiefs, the Packers on a 1-year deal. Nashawn Wright over from the Bears on a 1-year deal, who was former really good nickel cornerback but has dealt with injuries. Then they brought over Dane Belton from the Giants. Andrew Beck and Max Mitchell were re-signs at fullback and then tackle. So not exactly the flashiest offseason, but it's serviceable, especially for a team that has not done much in the year they were under Aaron Glenn. So year 2 for him, just getting some presence on the defensive side of the ball is pretty good, because their Jets defense was not good in 2025. So next up, we get to the Eagles, and the Eagles, are one of those teams that are starting to get to the point where they have a lot of young talent that they've drafted well, and that certainly has translated into success for them. They also won the Super Bowl back in 2024, but now it's getting to the point where they just don't quite have the space that they once did to really do things. Let's see, where are they listed? They're listed at 23rd, so they have about $13.5 million in cap space. Their signings so far have been Johnny Munt and Grant Calcaterra at tight end. Calcaterra re-sign, and then Munt over from the Jags. Then they also have taken a flyer on a 1-year deal on Reek Woolen from the Super Bowl winning Seattle Seahawks. I'm not a big fan of Reek Woolen. He had a pretty good rookie season, and then after that he just kind of fell off. And as a Commanders fan, I'm not super unhappy with this move, because I think he's a bit overrated in terms of I think people think he's a lot better than what he has been over the past couple of years. But who knows? Maybe he turns into a really goes back to that lockdown corner spot that he was in his rookie year under Vic Fangio and playing alongside of DeJean and Mitchell. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, Eagles, not too much traction so far in the offseason. Some of the guys they have that are free agents from their team but have not signed anywhere. So Jahan Dotson, I think Dotson might have signed somewhere, but he's not listed signed at the moment. But Brandon Graham, Adoree Jackson, AJ Dillon, Marcus Epps as well. I think Dallas Goedert too should be on that list. But yeah, there's like they obviously lost Jalen Phillips on the big deal, but yeah, it's getting to the point where the Eagles free agency is not going to be their friend, I think, for the next little bit here, just given the amount of contracts they're going to have to give out to the guys that they've drafted. So we go to the Steelers next, and the Steelers, where are they at in terms of cap space? They are 18th, so 17 and a half. Steelers didn't do too much. The big signing for them was Jamal Dean at cornerback from the Buccaneers on a 3-year, $36.75 million deal. So I do like that one because he's a solid piece right there. And then at running back, because they had to replace Kenneth Gainwell, who left actually for the Buccaneers, they replaced him with Rico Dowdle. And this is a guy I wanted Washington to sign, so I was a little bummed to see him go to Pittsburgh. But yeah, Rico to the Steelers on a 2-year, $12 million deal, $12.25 million to be specific. And I like this for the Steelers a lot. Like Rico had a nice season for the Panthers, and just get someone there, someone kind of opposite Jaylen Warren. My guess is Rico's probably going to slot into that RB1 spot. But yeah, we'll see. I like that signing for the Steelers. Then they also brought over Darnell Savage on a 1-year deal, who was most recently on the Buffalo Bills, was also on the Commanders for a good bit of 2025. Former Packers first-round pick in, I want to say 2019. Excuse my yawn. Sorry about that. It's getting late. Actually, now it is Thursday as I am recording through this. But yeah, that is it for the Steelers. What is? Oh, that's relinquished. That's why I was looking at the wrong tab. All right, so just about done here. Got 5 teams left. So the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers. Their big signing was actually none other than Mike Evans, the longtime legendary Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Signed him to a 3-year, $42.4 million contract. So a very big deal there for Mike Evans. Just a little worrisome given his injury history and going to a team that has been notoriously dealing with injuries over the past 7-8 years. But still, getting a big body wide receiver, and honestly probably their wide receiver 1 in Tampa, or not in Tampa, in San Francisco now. I don't mind this move for the 49ers whatsoever. The other signings, Vidarian Lowe at tackle from the Patriots on a 2-year, $9 million deal, and then re-signings to Garrett Wallow and Patrick Taylor at linebacker and running back, and then bringing over center Brett Toth from the Eagles. Again, Miners not too busy in terms of free agency. They have only $2.2 million in terms of cap space at the moment. They're sitting 27, so they just don't have too much room to maneuver at the moment. Next, we get to the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, who are currently sitting actually 7th in terms of free cap space at $42 million. So they could still do something here real quick. Right now, they've already just done re-signings. Right now, they've not signed anyone new. The big one was re-signing Rashid Shaheed, who was a great pickup for them. Like, I'd be interested to see the reality where the Seahawks don't make that trade for Rashid Shaheed. And my guess is they probably still win the Super Bowl, but who knows, honestly. This was a very, very nice piece for the Seahawks there. So they re-signed him to a 3-year, $51 million deal. Then they re-signed cornerback Josh Jobe to a 3-year, $24 million deal. And then re-signed tackle Josh Jones to a 1-year deal. So not much action for the Seahawks, which is a little surprising given the space that they had. But I think it's, prioritizing the guys that got you to the Super Bowl, not too bad either. But we'll see. I mean, Seahawks also just don't have a ton of holes. My guess is they might sign an edge rusher for depth here and there, because they did lose. They lost Boye Mafe, but even then, they only lost Boye Mafe, Kenneth Walker, Kobe Bryant, and Reek Woolen. So it's not like they lost a ton so far. And even then, in terms of guys that are free agents right now, it's only 5 players listed. So it's Seahawks, I think, are still in a pretty good spot, all things considered. Now, for the Buccaneers, their biggest signing was actually extension to Cade Otton on a 3-year, $30 million deal at tight end. So they keep their tight end one. Their other big signing was Alex Anzalone from Detroit, linebacker on a 2-year, $17 million deal. I like this a lot because I like Alex Anzalone. He's cool. And slotting them in on a team that I think kind of needs a bit of juice at the linebacker position. I like that right there. Then the Bucs signed Kenneth Gainwell at 2 years, $14 million to pair him up with Bucky Irving. So I like that duo a lot. I like it a lot better than Bucky Irving and Rachaad White or even Sean Tucker. And I don't mind Sean Tucker too much, but I like Kenneth Gainwell over both of those guys, essentially. Rachaad White still, I think White and Sean Tucker are still, actually don't know if Sean Tucker signed anywhere, but Rachaad White has still not signed anywhere. It doesn't say, I mean, Sean Tucker might still be under contract, actually. I might be wrong there. But yeah, not too bad there. The Bucs also signed Ashawn Robinson, defensive lineman, most recently on the Panthers. Panthers had, I think, released him just a couple days ago. 1 year, $10 million. And then they also brought over Jake Browning at backup quarterback over from the Bengals, who had a terrible 2025 in the few games he played. So hopefully the Bucs don't really see anything of Jake Browning unless it's, they're week 18 and they've clinched a playoff spot. It's like one of those scenarios. Next, second to last, is the Tennessee Titans. They were also one of the big spenders because they had a ton of money. They now actually are sitting at, where are they right now? Still sitting at 5th. So they actually still have $46 million in cap. But yeah, they were spending a lot. Their biggest contract was to Wan'Dale Robinson from the Giants at 4 years, $70 million. I think that's a bit much for Robinson. But again, it's the wide receiver market, so it is what it is. It just feels like a lot of money. But he's reuniting with Brian Dable, so there's a couple of guys here from New York that the Titans brought over. Another big one, their other really big signing was John Franklin Myers, defensive lineman. I think more of a defensive end, I want to say. Bring him in over from the Broncos at a 3-year, $63 million deal. I like this one a lot. I think Franklin Myers is very underrated. And pairing him up with Jeffrey Simmons on the inside, if they are going to play him at defensive tackle instead of D, I guess he is a defensive lineman, but yeah, like him and Jeffrey Simmons, pretty nasty combo right there. So I like this one a lot. They also brought, there's a voice crack. Getting to my wit's end here, but we're almost done. But Alontae Taylor, cornerback from the New Orleans Saints on a 3-year, $58 million deal. I actually don't know too much about Alontae Taylor, so I can't say too much here, but another big deal. Then they also brought over another cornerback in Cordell Flott from the New York Giants. And Flott was someone who I feel like was solid, but not like super spectacular. But I feel like the Titans just didn't have any good cornerback play over the last couple of years. So getting Taylor and Flott, not too bad. They also gave a 3-year, $24 million deal to Daniel Bellinger at tight end, which is, basically replacing Chico Okonkwo with Bellinger. Don't know if I quite like that, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll see about that one. Then the final giant that they brought over of the 4 was Austin Schlottman at center on a 2-year, $9 million deal. So shoring up the offensive line a little bit. They're hoping, guys like Peter Skronsky and I think Jackson Powers Johnson, like some of the guys they have on the inside can develop a bit more. Then the other signings were Jordan Elliott at defensive lineman on a 2-year deal from the Niners, Tommy Townsend at punter from the Texans on a 2-year deal, re-signing Morgan Cox, their long snapper. Then Malik Herrig at edge rusher from the Chiefs on a 1-year deal. Then also Mitchell Trubisky, backup quarterback, most recently on the Buffalo Bills, former Bears first-round pick, second overall back in 2017. Bring him in to backup. I actually don't mind that, mentor Cam Ward a bit. And then Joshua Williams at cornerback from the Chiefs on a 2-year deal as well. So very active for the Titans. A little bit of everything, shoring the defense up a lot, which is good, and getting another weapon for Cam Ward, which is really good. So I think there's a good chance the Titans go, if they don't go offensive line or, one of the, I guess maybe one of the top defenders, but like maybe they go Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese if he's there. But I think the Titans are going to go Jeremiah Love at pick 4 because I get that they have Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, but I think getting a young and highly touted running back is something that the Titans, I think, wouldn't be too upset passing up. I think there's a good chance they don't pass it up. Who knows? And they might also go Carnell Tate. They want to go wide receiver to help out Cam Ward. There's a lot of spots they could go to at number 4. Finally, we get to the Washington Commanders. And this is one, as someone who's a Commanders fan and on Twitter, on Reddit and whatnot, and just, I don't comment on stuff because I don't feel like, getting into the trenches and all that, but, just seeing the reactions to stuff, it has been night and day compared to, if I were making this Monday night, Commanders fans, they were not happy at all. It was looking bleak. Now, though, it's a lot different. Commanders actually have a pretty good offseason so far. So the Commanders were heading into the offseason with, I think, the third or fourth most cap space in the league. They're actually currently sitting at the most at $62 million. The Ravens are actually sitting at second most with $60 million because they don't have Maxx Crosby anymore. And the Commanders, it took a little bit. They were definitely slow to get going. I think their first signing was Amik Robertson at cornerback, bringing him in over from the Detroit Lions on a 2-year, $16 million deal. As probably going to bring him in as, and they might put him. I think they're probably going to put him at inside, as a nickel slot quarterback, and then probably move Saint Still to the outside. That's my guess. But it was that, and then re-signing Marcus Mariota on a 1-year deal. That was it for the first 3 to 4 hours, and people were not super happy. And I think that was basically it for the first day. No, they did also bring back. Oh no, that was the second day as well. But I think it was the second day they started. Let me actually double check here, just because I was texting with my brothers who are also fans of the Commanders, and we were freaking out when some of the big stuff happened. And the big one though was Odafe Owe, bringing him in from the Chargers, and this was one of the biggest deals in free agency. 4 years, $100 million. A lot of money here. Maybe a bit of an overpay, maybe not. But with how awful, genuinely awful, their pass rush was this past year, given that everyone got injured on their pass rush, getting Odafe Owe, who had a really nice back half of the season with the Chargers, is good. And yeah, this was on the first day, so I was very happy about that. It was really, really good for the Commanders. Day 2 brought over another really good one in Leo Chenal, linebacker from the Kansas City Chiefs, on a 3-year, $24.75 million deal. Really love this move because gets a lot speedier at the linebacker position, and probably going to have him. My guess is he's probably going to play more of a Mike linebacker position, middle linebacker. And that was the Bobby Wagner position. So getting someone who is actually somewhat quick compared to old man Bobby Wagner is really nice. They also brought over on day 2 Tim Settle, reuniting him with Washington. He was former 3rd-round pick back when they were the Redskins in 2018. And on the defensive line, he's a defensive tackle, and got let go by Ron Rivera, I'm pretty sure, back in 2022 or 2023, I think. Maybe it might have even been 2021. Still not sure why, because he was good. And went to the Texans for a good while and was good there, so they brought him back. Really love that. And then day 3 has been, honestly, maybe the best day. The Otway signing's great, but day 3 has brought the Commanders' Clavon Chason over from the New England Patriots on a 1-year, $11 million deal, who also had a career revitalization year with New England. So he was Jaguars' first-round pick in 2020 and just did nothing in Jacksonville. He was terrible, but had I think a 10-sack season in New England this year. It was great. He was really good. Was on that LSU team in 2019. That was absurd. That the national championship team. So I like that for the Commanders, just getting someone else opposite of Owe, and getting just better at the defensive end position is nice. They also signed Chig Okonkwo over from the Titans on a 3-year, $30 million deal. So replacing Zach Ertz with Chig Okonkwo, major upgrade right there. They still have Ben Sinnott, and I think is their tight end too. But yeah, Okonkwo, really nice there. Then they also brought over Nick Cross, basically at the same time they signed Chig Okonkwo. Safety from the Colts on a 2-year, $14 million deal, which is really good because their safety position was not good. So a lot of positions that they really needed, they've signed. And then they also signed, as their last one, Charles Omenihu, the most recent one, edge rusher from Kansas City on a 1-year, $7 million deal. So this is more edge, depth at defensive end. But still, like, outside, it's really center, wide receiver, and running back are the 3 spots right now that the Commanders are low on. Because I think right now it's really just Bill Krosky Merritt at the running back spot. They might go Jeremiah Love if he falls to them at 7. I think that's a decent shot. And a lot of people are linking Brandon Ayuk to the Commanders for wide receiver because he played with Jaden Daniels at Arizona State, and they're good friends. Currently, Brandon Ayuk is still under contract with the 49ers. It is, I think, expected that they are going to release him. It's just a matter of when, and I think that when is not going to be for a little bit from the reports I've seen so far. But yeah, it's a good chance Ayuk comes over to the Commanders at wide receiver, but there's also a good chance he's not the only one the Commanders sign at wide receiver because they do need more, unfortunately, at wide receiver. As much as I like Treylon Burks and Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane, they do need another like bona fide wide receiver 2 to pair opposite of Terry McLaurin because he just has not had that at all in his career. Like a true wide receiver 2 to go opposite of him. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. As for running back, I got nothing, no idea if they're going to just hold out for Jeremiah Love or sign someone else because right now see nothing. And I have no idea what they're doing for center. They might just play Nick Allegretti there because he said he's fine with it and he said he's comfortable playing at center, but I don't know. We'll see what happens there. And yeah, that is everything so far in the first 3 days of free agency. So yeah, a ton of stuff has happened. I feel like there hasn't been a ton of like super huge contracts. The big ones are the Jalen Phillips, Alec Pierce, Trey Hendrickson, and Odafe Oweh. Those are the only 9-figure deals. But then Tyler Linderbaum, Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Doubs, Malik Willis. So like even then like the Wan'Dale Robinson and Romeo Doubs ones, they feel big, but they're not like super big. It's like $17 million per year essentially for those guys. So it's not like I feel like there hasn't been anything super blockbuster outside of the Jalen Phillips and Alec Pierce ones. Like even the Trey Hendrickson one is like, it's a lot of money, but for, like a high end edge rusher guy, it's kind of expected. The Oweh signing is maybe a bit of an overpay, but I don't mind that signing at all. Not in the slightest. But yeah, it's even still, there's like a ton of movement. Like the Titans and the Raiders making a ton of moves, Commanders as well. Patriots made some good moves. And some of the teams that can't do much. So like the Eagles, the Bengals, the Ravens, just not doing too much. Rams not doing too much either. Chiefs not doing too much. Should be interesting. Should be very interesting going forward in terms of how teams are going to approach the season, how teams are going to approach the draft, especially. I'm looking forward to all the sports YouTubers I follow to put out their new mock drafts after free agency, with all the updates and stuff, because there's going to be some changes here compared to what it was before, and this is for even if nothing's going on in terms of actual football, there's still plenty of stuff to look forward to as an NFL fan, if you're into like the player management stuff, and this is something I always look forward to is free agency frenzy. So yeah, that will do it for this episode. I'm going to try and get something out on Saturday. I apologize for not getting one out this past Saturday. I was busy with other work, both in terms of real life work and then also my YouTube stuff. I was finishing up scripting my Pearl Harbor video, which I'm going to probably record tomorrow. Just have not had the time for that yet. And I also just couldn't quite think of a topic that I wanted to go over. So it's just drew a blank on what I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I'll try and get something out on Saturday, and then next Tuesday we'll be back to the regularly scheduled recapping the divisions, because I want to try and get that done before baseball season starts. And I guess I can also plug, so you can follow me on YouTube at Henry the Host, all one word. You can also watch me stream on Thursdays and Fridays. Thursdays is usually gaming stream, so I've been playing through Super Metroid on stream, and then Fridays usually doing a sports stream. So I have been doing play-by-plays of the World Baseball Classic as of late. Probably going to do one, whatever the whatever Friday night game is. I'd assume Team USA is playing. They had a real scare after losing to Team Italy last night, though luckily Team Italy won tonight against Mexico, knocked Mexico out. So Italy and USA are advancing to the next stage. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. And yeah, otherwise, feel free to tune in. Hopefully this Saturday if I can get one out, and most definitely next Tuesday for the NFC West divisional recap. But yeah, that'll be for next week. For this week, that'll be all. So yeah, thank you very much for listening.